So if you care to find me, look to the western skies. VGC, the video game podcast with me, Jordan Midler, and Chris Scullion. This week, could Sony be buying the Elden Ring maker? We'll see. But first, how's it going, folks? Chris, how are you?
I'm going well. I'm doing all right. People probably be stunned that we're back talking again after our absolute barnstormer last week.
Fight of the century, apparently.
Got far more attention than I expected it to.
Do you think this is a case of people not understanding how Scottish people speak to each other, or why do you think there was such a visceral reaction?
I think it's partly that. I think it's also partly, I think because we've been doing it for so long and just by chance one of our more active conversations hasn't made it on air.
Yeah.
I think the contrast makes it look like we were going at it hammer and tongs, whereas in reality it was like you've said before, it was about as enthusiastic as we get in the pub.
Yeah, and I didn't even think about it when it was finished until we started getting comments and people in the Discord being like, "Oh, the argument was so funny." And I was like, "What argument are you talking about?" Alas.
But,
if you want more arguments, patreon.com/Video Games Chronicle. I spent that last night was the worst night of my professional career, truly. I'm not feeling very well, as you can probably tell from my voice, but we'll soldier on. It was one of those where the house was about 2,000 degrees, but I felt freezing. So I was fighting the cold sweats. I was coughing so much that I was literally my abs, in the sense of my abdominal muscles. I have no abs to speak of, but very sore. So the only way that we can remedy this is with Monster Energy Extra Strength. You can see on the camera here, it's a small can. I don't just have massive hands. The logo says Monster Squared. It is from Japan, and I looked this up. So this little can, which is 180 mils, has the caffeine content of two 500 ml cans. So let's see how we go with this. I'm assuming it'll be regular Monster flavor. You know, it just tastes like regular Monster, so I'm wondering how...
Where's this one from? Is this from...
This is from Japan.
Overseas?
Yeah.
Is this the same situation as that Pepsi I got?
No, because it definitely...
It's just a normal...
It definitely has increased caffeine content. It's got... A normal can of Monster's got like 140 or something like this, and this has 250 in this small can, so...
Pure caffeine.
There's actually a weird kind of coffee aftertaste to it.
It is Monster cubed, to be fair, so that's probably why.
It might be a combination of me being unwell and losing my sense of taste, but I mean, it's not bad. I could certainly see... Oh, it's very green as well. I could certainly see me walking down the streets of Kyoto on a way to a business meeting, popping 3 of them before I'm ready to go and talk about the earnings for the quarter.
Drinking one before I scrap on the streets of Kamurocho.
Exactly.
I'll tell you what else is green, and that is Levi Roots Energy.
Oh!
Caribbean Crush with a hint of ginger.
The big man?
Yeah. So it makes a good sauce by all accounts. I can't say I've ever tried this reggae sauce, but
I have. It's not bad. It's I mean, obviously the Levi Roots lore goes back to Dragon's Den and the reggae sauce song, but I've had it on some chicken before. It's quite nice.
It's people who are long time listeners to this podcast know that I'm a sucker for energy drinks with real juice in them. And this allegedly has real grapefruit, mango, and pineapple juice.
Oh, that's
and
nice.
We have a blurb which appears to be written by Levi Roots himself. He's even signed the can at the top.
Do the voice.
Hello. That's
Levi Robertson.
That's safe to do. He says, add some sunshine to your day with my delicious mix. He actually stands above the vat with a big paddle stirring it, wearing nothing but a pair of shorts. Add some sunshine to your day with my delicious mix of Caribbean flavas, spell Flavas.
Yeah.
Flavas, like the Peter Andre song.
Yeah.
Like natural caffeine. The very same. Natural caffeine and B vitamins / vitamins that will put a kick in your step. Go on, join me and put some music Go on, join me and put some music in your glass. More love, Levi Roots. But it's assuming people are going to pour this into a glass.
Oh yeah, decant it into like a big wine glass and stir it.
Also, just to continue the Jamaican theme, there's a QR code that people can scan, and it says, "Scan here for more information on all things Levi."
Yeah, come on.
Spelled TINGZ, all things. So,
I went to Jamaica in my youth. Lovely place.
that's right. Where you lost a Game Boy?
Yeah.
I lost a Game Boy game.
Jump into the pool with my Game Boy in pocket. He's taking a big drink. How are we feeling, Mr. Real Juice?
I'm certainly not getting the juice. I'm getting the hint of ginger.
Yeah.
That's more than a hint. That's like a blast of ginger.
A ginger beer situation.
Yeah. Do you know what? It tastes a lot like ginger beer with a very, very mild hint of pineapple to it. Ginger beer's the...
Did you ever taste the Monster ginger beer that was out for a while?
No.
It was like in a bronzy kind of can. I thought it was okay, but yeah.
Ginger beer's a perfect shout. That's exactly what it tastes like. It's fine. I probably would, like, it's a 500ml can. That's going to rip my soul out. I don't know how much caffeine's in there. It'll probably be the normal stuff in it, but it's 140 usually.
140 is certainly the kind of the median that we're looking at.
32 milligrams for 100 mils, so times 5 is 160.
A little bump up.
Bad.
Not bad.
It's fine. It's fine.
So for the official energy drink historian, I would say Monster Extra Strength. I would say that it's the kind of thing that Miyamoto probably drank before he pitched Labo. And not bad. I only paid £1.50 for this. It's so decent.
That's strong. Well, and I would say for Levi Roots Energy Caribbean Crush, I would say a very strong ginger beer flavour. You can taste Levi's sweat. You can tell he's really works the paddle.
Yeah, he's always working that paddle. Standing there with his guitar, speaking to Duncan Bannatyne.
Famously.
Mind how big a deal Dragon's Den was back in the day. That was like pure appointment television. Now it's just...
I'll tell you what now though, do you know what I watch every lunchtime when I'm having my lunch? Is Shark Tank.
I knew you were going to say version. Shark Tank, yeah.
It's much better.
I have a Shark Tank.
It's more embarrassing.
Down the stairs, I've got a Scrub Daddy. Yeah.
Oh, Scrub Daddy's is legendary.
It's the good stuff.
Shark Tank's better because it's more embarrassing. Like the Americans have decided that they have to do like an infomercial pitch. Sharks, don't you hate when you're out in this yard and your like leaves keep falling? Oh, exactly. But yeah, it's and I quite like Mark Cuban as well. He seems to be one of the few rich people who seems like a decent man.
He's got his head screwed on. Well, I mean, eat the rich, obviously, but he seems
to, of course,
at least be performatively decent. Speaking of eating the rich, Chris, I'd like to call out Jeffrey Bezos, the baldy
half-incher
prick. So I'm waiting on my 30th anniversary Slim.
Same. Oh no, not the same controller.
So it's coming from Amazon, and it was meant to come tomorrow, and now the order just says we'll email you when we know it's being dispatched. And well, in the past this has happened, and it is just at some random point in the day flipped into normal, like completely fine. I hate when pages are this like nondescript about what's going on. Like, just tell me what it is. Like, one of the best things about getting stuff delivered by like UPS is they have a tracker that's like minute by minute of like, this is in Utrecht. It's just been picked up by Hans. Yeah. Hans is taking it over to this other. Greta is now packing it. Like, whereas Amazon,
when you can see, because it's a DPD. One of them does that thing where you actually can follow their bike or their car or their car. It's one guy on a bike carrying 500 parcels. Like, you can follow their truck, and it's like Stefan is doing order number 42. You are number 83 in the queue. Yeah. If you wanted to, you could get in your car and go and like hijack the van and say, "Mate, hand it over now. I'm in a rush."
I hate that shit because I start looking at it and I'm like, why is it taking you so long to get from the bottom of Foxbar to the top of Foxbar? What are you doing? Forgetting that he's not just popping by every door. He has to like stop, get
it's
the
not
parcel,
Paperboy,
get out. Like, it's not launching consoles for like 30 yards away. But yeah, I think the DualSense Edge came yesterday. That was bought off me by one Jeffrey Gersman because I was like, I don't need this, and I said, do you want it? And he was like, I don't need it either, but I will buy it off you. And the normal DualSense is coming tomorrow, which Danielle Partis, friend of the show, bought off me once I got the Slim, because the Slim obviously comes with one, so I don't need that.
I'm getting the DualSense today, allegedly, from Amazon, just the standard one, but that's it. I didn't bother with it.
Aaron Bain, enemy of the show, his DualSense arrived in they come in lovely boxes that are like plays off the PS1 boxes. His box was bashed to fuck, so undisplayable.
That's poor. That's
tremendous. I'm so happy. If it was to happen to anyone, he's the reason we argued last night. He's trying to come between us. He's angling for one of our roles. A
disruptor.
Yeah, he's a disruptor of the industry. Speaking of disrupting the industry, From Software parent Kadokawa confirms Sony has sent it a letter of intent to acquire it. So earlier in the week, it was reported by Reuters, citing two sources familiar with the situation, that talks between Sony and Kadokawa are ongoing. If you don't know Kadokawa, they own 69% of From Software, but more relevant, they own an absolute shit ton of anime studios and anime distribution hubs and loads of companies like that. So these talks are between Kadokawa and big Sony, like capital letters Sony. This isn't FromSoft and PlayStation doing these talks, but obviously if Sony were to acquire them, FromSoft would likely become a first-party PlayStation studio. A letter of intent has been sent, and Kadokawa, according to Reuters, the deal could be done within weeks. I saw some speculation following this that this is to fend off a hostile takeover from a South Korean company. So Kadokawa apparently approached Sony to do this because they're like, well, would rather it was you than some randoms. Obviously, Chris, this sent people into absolute spiral and hysteria. Elden Ring 2 confirmed for PlayStation exclusive. Kadokawa also own Acquire, who put out Octopath Traveler 2, and Mario and Luigi Brothership. What's your take on this?
It's an interesting one. Like you say, that there's a bigger picture at play here, and if it was a straight Sony wants to buy From Software, then that's a different story. But like you say, it feels like some of this acquisition is to get a greater slice of the anime pie, because they do not own.
They own Funimation and Crunchyroll, much of the anime stuff is Sony.
So it feels almost like an anime monopoly. It's getting started here. But in terms of video,
Animonopoly, anything with Animonopoly, we should know in Scissor Sisters.
Animonopoly's better. Not anymore. See, they're back without her.
I know, what's the point if you're not going to have animatronic? I mean, Jake Shears is obviously the star of the show, but if you're not getting animatronic, what's the point?
Yeah, exactly. Just one scissor sister. Yeah. And then there's not even scissors, it's just a blade. Yeah. But yeah, it's a weird one. It's one of these ones where you're going to have to wait and see what happens if the acquisition goes through. How much is Sony going to wall off From Software and to say everything you make from now on is exclusive to PlayStation and PC? Because you got to imagine there's no way a new From Software game wouldn't come out on PC as well. Yeah, especially the way Sony's CEOs have been talking about trying to get their games on other formats, but not explicitly meaning Xbox. So you got to imagine
Haruki sat there going publish to Steam now.
Yeah, exactly. Also, is this the only way you're going to get your Bloodborne remaster?
That was my thought. So, whenever Bloodborne comes up in the secret circles, the conversation is always, well, Bloodborne, in order for Bloodborne to happen, both Sony and From would have to be happy with the money and happy with the people going, happy with the team working on it. But if it's all one shop, then it seems more likely to happen. The only thing is, I bet if there was a Bloodborne 2, Miyazaki probably wouldn't be as intimately involved, because he's making Elden Ring 2 at the moment. So yeah, I think if this were to happen, I think an Elden Ring 2 would certainly come out on PlayStation and PC. I think it would be 50-50 whether they put it on Xbox, because ultimately, if they do put it on Xbox, it doesn't. People aren't like running out. They're not throwing their PS5s in the bin to go and play on Xbox, because with Xbox being in third place, like, it doesn't really matter if they put it on there to get more sales. But yeah, I think I think the PC people shouldn't be too worried. It wouldn't surprise me if, in addition to Elden Ring 2 being everywhere, they also spun up a PlayStation console, at least temporary exclusive from, because why wouldn't you play that card? But it'll be interesting to see, because obviously From and Sony have previous, like Demon's Souls, Bloodborne, Demon's Souls Remake, all exclusive to PlayStation. The entire franchise could have been exclusive to PlayStation, but they passed on Dark Souls because they were like, look, who's going to bother with this kind of shit? Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, I think I imagine this kind of. I really think this is going to be announced in a couple of weeks. It seems like that's the direction of travel.
It's even closer. I think Nintendo fans should be more worried. The acquisition includes Dwango, who are a Japanese telecoms company, famously in Dwango Unchained. They
horribly
own,
racist company as well.
they own Spike Chunsoft as well, who did the Dragon Ball fighting game recently. That apparently has just plummeted in terms of like. Apparently it's enormous, but nobody's playing it yet. But Dwango also owns Acquire. You mentioned that earlier. So Acquire did Octopath Traveler and Octopath Traveler 2, and like you say, recently did the Mario and Luigi Brothership. If Acquire becomes a Sony studio, are they still going to be allowed to make these really cool RPGs on multi formats? Because Octopath Traveler is great on the Switch. Like the Switch feels like the perfect console and handheld mode for a lot of these RPGs. You only need to look at Dragon Quest, the Dragon Quest 3 remake, which just came out and sold like 80,700 or something, 800,000, sorry, in Japan, and something like 650,000 of that was on Switch, and 100 or so thousand was on PS5. Like Japan wants to play these RPGs on the move.
I follow a lot of like Japanese retail accounts, and like they were all saying that every single shop you went into, the Switch box just had like the big red X across it because they had no copies of it. I think that especially in Sony's kind of in the Totoki verse, where he's like, we need to get more stuff on more stuff, I think you're probably pretty safe to that stuff would go elsewhere. Maybe they wouldn't do in-house dev for Nintendo, perhaps like this they might not get their hands on Mario and Luigi again, but stuff like was Octopath with Square? Does Square have a piece of Octopath?
I believe so. Yeah. So we'll see. It'd be curious to see what happens. And also, the acquisition needs to go through first. I don't see the world's authorities clamping down on it like they did with Microsoft and Activision. It's nowhere near as big a deal. For gamers, it's a big deal.
Yeah, the way that it works in Japan, it's not as if Microsoft can come in and put a bid in or anything like that. Like, it's virtually impossible for non-Japanese companies to do stuff like this. So
it's a big deal for a very specific set of video game fans who like the From Software games, but for everyone else, it's just like, okay, whatever. It's not that seismic.
I think the best case scenario, this doesn't happen because consolidation is bad. But if this were to happen and require the best case scenario, post on the PlayStation blog, welcome From Software into the first party family. We're leaving them alone. We're not touching them. We're not putting American PlayStation, Sony people into From Software. When you play a From Software game anywhere, the PlayStation Studios logo will come up, but that's it. Otherwise, don't bother.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Right, Chris. What's going on with Flight Simulator 2024?
Mate, fucking don't. Listen, like, here's an interesting discussion that we can have now that might lead to another spat, but probably won't. But it'll lead to fights on the internet at least.
I'm an unwell man. You're going to batter an unwell man.
I'm coming in 2-footed. No, I'm not. We had quite a lot of shit this week for a certain review we did. Because the game that we reviewed in question was broken. Flight Sim is a very different situation in that review code was given out on the day where the game was released, at which point everyone discovered the game was broken.
Yeah.
People didn't have time to plan a review to say, by the way, this game is broken, and as such there are hardly, if any, reviews out still because people are still waiting to get into the game. So in a way, Microsoft's played a blinder by avoiding negative reviews. By basically nobody's giving it a bad review yet by saying, "Hey, this game's broken," because everyone's waiting until it's stable again. But this game is a mess right now.
Yeah.
Like when it launched, there was an endless queue to get in, and finally, after a while, I got past the queue, and then there was a big long loading screen, and it got to 97% and froze. I was like, okay, so we finally tried again, got past that loading screen, got to an accessibility screen, got past that, it was like, customize your character, froze. All right, start again, froze.
Can I interject with a question? Mm-hmm. Why is this happening? Is this like an online only? Are you like streaming all of this? Like, what is
the thing
game?
is? Well, a lot of it has been moved to the cloud.
Like Crackdown 3. Good.
So I think one of the main reasons, one of the most obvious signs of that is that the last Microsoft Flight Simulator, which I loved, I gave it 5 stars in VGC. I thought it was fantastic. Was something like 160 gigabytes or something like that download. This new one's like 30.
Okay.
And you're like, okay, everything's coming in from the cloud this time. So every single step of this, the way it's contacting a server and pulling information from it. So there's countless points where this game can freeze before you get to it because it's ballsing up along the way.
Mm.
When you finally get to the map screen, if you want to just do a normal flight, it's like someone at Microsoft's decided, or a Sobo studio or whoever it is that's mainly in control of development. It's like someone just said, well, like 20 minutes before release, actually, what if somebody tries to use a controller to play this instead of mouse and keyboard, like we've clearly been developing it for the entire time? And someone's like, shit, yeah, put some things in. It's broken with a controller. The menu system is broken with a controller. So if I want to fly to Edinburgh, I go to the search prompt and type in Edinburgh. It comes up with a drop down. You can't access the drop down list. You can't choose the options.
Is this on console?
This is on console. This is on Series X. So you have to come out of that, go to a world map and pan around the map and find Edinburgh manually yourself because that's the only way you can do it. The last Flight Simulator had a menu you could bring up mid-flight with loads of wee icons that you could toggle cameras, that kind of stuff. That's gone. Every single aspect of the UI is massively confusing for anyone using a controller. It's clearly been designed with PC in mind, and then just shot out on consoles to just deal with it, which is hugely disappointing because I loved the last one. I've been desperate for this one because they've added missions and all this kind of stuff. It's just I need to wait and see what happens with it because right now it's not. Like it's going to have to get to the point if this doesn't get sorted soon, I'm going to have to write the review and say no.
So apart from that, Mrs. Lincoln, what did you think of the play?
Exactly. I don't know.
How has this happened? Right? Why did they move it to this? Because Flights was it 40th anniversary was the last one. I think that's the last one I played. Sure, it was a big download, but when you downloaded it, everything seemed to work well, and I don't really understand how this has happened.
I can understand it in theory, on paper, how it works, because, like I say, it keeps the download sizes small. And when it works, I managed to get it working for a bit last night, and it's really cool when it works. Like when it streams in like it's supposed to, and it's constantly streaming in data as you fly. And in the last one, it was using Bing Maps, like we all do. And so when you fly over the wherever you are, it uses Bing Maps and then uses AI to kind of generate random buildings based on Bing Maps. Pardon me. This time it seems to be a lot more accurate. When you go down to ground level, it seems to be using some sort of street view in combination with Bing Maps, so that when you get down near the buildings, you're seeing the front of the buildings as well.
All right, okay.
It still looks like a nuclear bomb has been dropped on it and the cars are melted into the floor and all this kind of stuff. But I flew over Airdrie and went down to one of the retail parks, and you could see a B&M, like facing the B&M and facing like an Argos and all that. You could see the shop fronts. I got to my house and could see my garden and all that kind of stuff. The details better. That stuff's all streaming in through the cloud. All the weather information, all the multiplayer stuff. Most of this game is coming in from the cloud. You can tell when it loads up. You can see the plane and just a flat surface. That's basically what your game is. And then everything else, the building sizes, all the geometry, everything's coming in through the cloud constantly. You can even see it when you initially start the flight. When you say fly here, it shows you the map from above, and you can see chunks of the map loading in as the game gets ready to take you down to the plane. So in theory, it's good, but when you launch a game, loads of people are playing it. And they basically said on like a video, like explaining what was going on, they said, we tested this for up to 200,000 people. And you're like, mate, well, millions are going to be playing it.
Especially since it's on Game Pass.
Exactly. Yeah. And on PC Game Pass. And especially because the fact it's in the cloud suggests that you don't need as much power as you did before to run it. So I don't know. It's one of these ones where you know that it's like a long-term thing, but that doesn't help on day one when you're trying to review the thing. And I've got no doubt that in 2 months' time, it's going to be running a lot smoother. But people want to know now whether it's worth playing, and right now it's not until it's stable. So I now need to find time to decide when the cutoff point is to finally review it and say, nah, don't bother.
They're selling like a £200 version of this as well that has like loads of planes and airports. And
half of which don't turn up yet.
Great.
Because that's another one of the reasons. Apparently, they've been switching things on and off to get this running smoother. So, like, your planes are coming, don't worry. Thanks.
Delayed.
Yeah, exactly. Flight delayed.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's frustrating. It's been a really bad week for that. For like that and Stalker 2 for games just not working.
Yeah. We'll talk about it now. So, Stalker 2 review on the site. It's a good game. It's probably I probably liked it a bit less than other people did when working. Problem is, when working was about 20 minutes out of this week. So let's walk through how this week happened. We got Stalker 2 maybe like Wednesday, like last Wednesday or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
When the review code came in, the game basically didn't work. Like, all the reviewers were saying to each other, what is going on? Is it just me? Because when something like this happens, especially with a PC game, you think, oh, is my computer fucked or whatever? You speak to other people and they're like, no, this is a disaster. Throughout the week, more updates were coming in, and certain things would be slightly better, certain things would be slightly worse. All week, every 90 seconds, my screen would cut to black, which was great. My character was a narcoleptic. And then 48 hours before the review embargo, actually less than that, but for the sake of the story, it was the Monday night for the embargo being Wednesday afternoon. 140 gig patch dropped, which was just the whole game again. I was able to download it because I have lightning internet, but the majority of people, 140 gigs is like a full day of leaving it downloading.
Yeah.
So as such, at that point, I'd already completed the game. I can't go back and engineer all the situations that had previously been. That's the other thing. All the press gets an email being like, we've fixed like 1,200 things, including like 60 things that would completely break your save. And at that point, it's like, right, we have to just review the game that we were given, and as such, 2 stars. It seems like
massively frustrating.
Yeah, and it's a weird situation because that aged badly is like a weird way to put it, but that review won't be helpful in 2 months' time when the game's like totally different. But for people getting the game on day one, that's what we experienced, and even the people getting the game on day one are getting a different game than what the press played. My thoughts on this are they shouldn't have sent it out. Tons of games don't get it sent out, or send it out when that 140 gig patch came 2 days before and just been like, it's coming in hot. Well, you're not going to have a review for launch, but here you go. You can put up some impressions, but sending it out in the way that they did, how early they did, was a bad decision. It's a shame for GSC, who have shipped the game while getting fucking bombed constantly, which, look, we said it in the review, you can't use that situation to hand wave away the issues. However, you cannot think about this game without all of that stuff. So it's a complicated situation. I think it's a fucking incredible achievement and a miracle they got it out. And there is going to be a really a cool, I think it's good, but a lot of people think it's better than I do, game in a certain amount of time. But what are we meant to do? Like, I know a lot of places didn't score it and didn't review it, but we made the decision to score it.
But there's the thing, ultimately there's a £50 edition, a £70 edition, and a £90 edition, which people are wanting to know whether they should, at the time the review came out, whether they should pre-order it, because
and like a £300 edition that they were selling 6 months ago.
That's right, and on their Twitter account they're talking about pre-order now and get this and get that. So it's like, it's all well and good saying we'll hold fire on the review until it comes out, and we'll give it a few days after it comes out. But when they're actively on Twitter promoting pre-orders, saying if you don't pre-order you will miss out on these things, people want to know if they should pre-order. And at the time we were able to review it, the answer was no.
Yeah.
And I don't doubt that if you started playing it as of today, totally fresh, you might have a far better experience, but it's too late. Like, the pre-order window's gone now. It's a massively frustrating situation for everyone, and it's like you say, we should never have got it in that state, especially if they knew that within a week, because 140 gigabyte patch isn't the sort of thing that you just decide on a Tuesday night you're going to bring out and then release on a Wednesday morning. That's been part of a workflow for a long time. So they knew this patch was coming. they could have told us, by the way, hold fire because this game's going to be radically different in a few days' time.
That feels like the review build, that 140 gig patch. Like, when we get stuff for review, a lot of the time there's like issues with like jank and issues, but doing this as long as we have, you can almost put a filter on of like, what is this is a significant issue that is breaking the game, or what is that texture didn't load in, that's not worth mentioning because it's going to be fixed day one. And often we get patch notes with the review copies that are very specific. This was just like a 7 bullet points of like, we fixed 57 of these and 100 of these and 500 of these.
Well, sometimes you even get told what the issues are before you even play, so which I really appreciate, because you get the review and it'll come with a document saying, by the way, we're aware of this bit crashing and of this thing here, so if you come across it, don't assume that that's part of the game, but we know and we're fixing it, don't worry about it, but that's accounted for. And that you appreciate, because that removes any doubt that, because when you see an issue in a game, you think, do they know that? Is that going to get fixed? You've got to give them the benefit of the doubt. If they explicitly say to you, by the way, we know this bit's broken, we're aware of it, we're fixing it, that removes that doubt. But yeah, to just like suddenly 4 or 5 days later say, by the way, we've changed 140 gigabytes of code here, it's just...
It's a bad situation.
It's grim.
Anyway,
again, like I say, like Flight Sim's the complete opposite. It's the same situation, but the opposite situation. In that, if they'd have given us Flight Sim a week early, it would have actually probably worked better.
Yeah, because there would only be like 1,000 people on it. Like,
yeah, but if it had the same issues, then it would have been a similar situation where we'd be hammering that. But because we got it on launch day, oddly, they're getting away with it because people are just waiting until they're able to review it, because everyone's in the same boat. There's no urgency. It's weird. It's a shite situation all around, basically.
It certainly is.
It's such a frustrating week.
Quick story before the break. PlayStation 5 Pro continues to be the greatest console of all time, as Jedi Survivor and Silent Hill 2 look worse. This seems to be a problem with the pisser, where the kind of auto upscaling has made certain modes in Jedi and Silent Hill to look shite. They've both said they're working on it, but my question is, these are both games that were like, oh yeah, we support. Did they not check? Did they not actually check in their studio and go, hey, wait a minute? Because it's not as if they had to like opt in to be PlayStation 5 Pro enhanced, and it's PlayStation
weird.
5 Pro shited.
And especially because by all accounts, Silent Hill 2 never got a patch. Like they're still waiting on the first patch for PS5 Pro.
Oh, really? Okay.
But by all accounts, is what I'm telling from the Silent Hill Reddit and everything. Everyone's been waiting for the patch, because apparently when the PS5 Pro came out, a switch was just turned on that says that, okay, this now supports Pro, and that's all that was done to it. So the game's basically, the Pro's basically taken the stock version of Silent Hill 2 and using its upscaler to try and render that. But by all accounts, I think the problem with that is that in performance mode, because it's trying to hit 60 frames a second, it's rendering at a really low resolution. And so the PS5 Pro is taking like an 840p or whatever it is resolution and trying to upscale that up to 4K, which means small details like leaves and the road surface and all that kind of stuff. The algorithm is just massively confused, and with every frame it's generating a totally different pattern, and it's making this weird shimmering effect where every frame that the picture changes. And it's weird. I half feel bad for the developers, because everyone's getting torn into the developers for this. And the developers like, when I made Jedi Survivor, I didn't know if PS5 Pro was coming out. Like we did. Someone somewhere has made a decision that yes, this game will be supported by PS5 Pro. But I wonder how many development teams have actually been given the time to prepare for this, because it does feel like a switch has just been turned on and it's like, let's just see how it deals with it. A lot of developers are getting shit for something. They're like, mate, this wasn't part of our work stream. It was to do PS5 Pro enhancements as of a couple of months ago.
So silly. Developers, you shouldn't have to wait until Digital Foundry fucking graphics pedos this to check if there's going to be issues like this. But alas, PS5 Pro on top. We can all agree about that. When we come back, questions from the Discord. Remember, patreon.com/video games chronicle. And we'll see you in a minute. And we are back. Chris, would you like some questions
I'd
from
love nothing
the
more.
Discordians?
Yes, please.
Okay, that's an interesting one. Ryan Cobain, father of Kurt.
God
Has there been a game from this generation, and this is already controversial, from this generation, 2017, with the launch of the Switch to now, that has entered your top lists? And if there are any games you'd recommend people play if they haven't, he has a second question, but we'll start with that. I think suggesting this generation started in 2017 is cheeky. But,
I'll go with it. I'll run with it.
Well, if that's the case, then my favourite game ever came out in this period of time, which is, let me just double check this, but Tetris Effect, one of the best games ever made.
Yeah, it was PS4, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2018. So if we're counting that in this generation, November 9th, 2018, Tetris Effect, simply one of the best pieces of software ever.
I agree with that. And also, I would add, depending on how I'm feeling on the day, like if I was to do a top 10, Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild would be in there or out there, depending on how I'm feeling each day. But those were the two this generation, I think, that properly. I know Breath of the Wild wasn't for everyone, but I'm basically saying that purely for your benefit.
I'm a Tears man. I'm a Tears man then, now, forever.
But like I think it just came at just the right time for me. I was exhausted with Zelda, and then Breath of the Wild totally changed it. And I was like, okay, this is totally reinvigorated it for me. So yeah, that and Mario Odyssey are the two that did it for me, to be honest.
I mean, if we're counting all of this stuff, then I think anyone with a PS5 should at least try Returnal. It's absolute nails hard, but Returnal, Alan Wake 2 is weird. I think it would be good content, like a Patreon thing, if we were to get in a call and try and nail down our personal top 10s. I bet one of Alan Wake, Returnal, Astro, one of these kind of recent hitters would get in there. I don't know which one. It's not like Tetris Effect where that is like with a bullet up there.
See, this is going to sound really weird. I would put Astro's Playroom in before Astrobot, just because I think it had more of an impact, which sounds really daft. Which is weird because when you put them side by side, clearly Astrobot's the better game. But I think the fact that Astro Playroom's in every console and is basically the ultimate, the best ever. Tech demo was an insult to it, but
best ever pack-in? Are you saying that?
No, tech demo. I was going to say best ever tech demo. No, because the best pack-in was.
You're going to say Wii Sports, aren't you?
It was Tetris of the Game Boy.
Oh yes, fair.
And then Wii Sports, then Super Mario Brothers, and then NES. But yeah, like as far as demos go, I don't think it even counts as a demo. That was a game.
Yeah,
included. I would put that in the list ahead of Astrobot, to be honest.
Fair. We'll do that at some point. Second question: do you think the idea of the console wars have now ended as the main players are all doing their own thing? I've said this before. I'm sad that Xbox and PlayStation aren't like biting at each other. I want them to be within. Like, I would love if Chris String every month was like, "Oh, this month is Xbox, this month is PlayStation." Like, I wish they were shoulder to shoulder, really battling. I think it's really, frankly, fucking boring that it's so spread apart.
I would never say the console wars were over, though. The competition maybe decreased.
Yeah.
But you only need to look at Twitter every single second of every single day to see that it's still an absolute cesspit of idiots fighting with each other. Because
it's such a losing battle, though. Because like, what are they supporting now? Like,
it's like okay, I get it. The £400 box you bought is different to the £400 box that other people have.
£700 box, come on now.
Well, sorry, I apologise. I appreciate that some people feel the need to justify their purchase decision by putting down the other one to kind of make themselves feel better that they made the right choice, but it's embarrassing. Play the games that are on your console, because there's fucking thousands of them on all three. On whether you've got a Switch or an Xbox or a PlayStation, there are thousands of games. Go and play them. Shut up.
Go and play them and shut up. Jamie H 1224. Apart from Witcher 3 Blood and Wine, Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty, and now Shadow of the Erdtree, are there any other game of the year worthy DLC expansions that you think could have been in the conversation in previous years? What was the name of that? Undead Nightmare, the Red Dead expansion. I thought that was really good. Battle of the Pony. That was
Yeah,
really good.
all those the GTA, the Rockstar ones are all really good. I can't think beyond that. Anything like some that it would have to have been really meaty enough to justify being
Fallout
counted
3
almost
and
as
New
a full
Vegas got
game.
some good DLC, but they weren't like massively long or anything. DLC and these kind of expansions are so, I've said this before, they're so antiquated. Like no one really does them
Yeah,
anymore. Because if it's
the,
going to get that big, they usually spin it off like Miles Morales.
I would if it hadn't been staggered, I would have said the Mario Kart stuff because it basically doubled the size of the game. It was essentially a whole second game's worth of stuff, but because they staggered out over such a length of time, it didn't feel like that. If they'd have just went, boom, here's one pack of like another 40 tracks, then you could probably justify including that as almost an entirely new Mario Kart game. But they dripped it in, so it didn't really kind of feel like that.
Yeah, I say
Yeah.
it's antiquated, but I didn't think they were particularly excellent, and it kind of felt like you were just buying more Pokemon. But Pokemon did two DLC packs that were quite big, but that was a weird situation when it really did feel like, oh, if you want all these starters, if you want all these legendaries, what if you just buy this DLC, which obviously I was going to do. What do you feel about Airtree getting nominated? I kind of feel like that's fine. Like I don't really.
Yeah.
I can see both sides of it, but I kind of fall down. I mean, I voted for it, so
Yeah, I don't give a shit. Like I mean, ultimately, this is like not to disparage the Game Awards because I do enjoy the Game Awards when it's on, and I like all the new trailers, and it's nice to see games getting acknowledged. At the end of the day, video game fans shouldn't give a shit. Because if Shadow the Erdtree wins an award, or if a different, if Astrobot wins the award, or if Black Myth Wukong
if
gets
that
the award,
happens, shut the whole fucking thing down.
regardless of which game gets the award, you go to bed that night and wake up the next day and your life's exactly the same. Like,
well, our lives are slightly more tired considering we go to bed at fucking 4 a.m. when that's happening.
That's true. But for the common man, it's like it doesn't matter what game wins the award. It's just a bit of fun. Like if you want to get really het up about something, there's a few other things on the news you might want to focus your attention on. Like, nobody cares if Shadow of the Erdtree counts as a game or not. It's like 30, 40 hours. It costs almost as much money as a full game. Count it. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Like, it won't win because there'll be enough journalists who decide that doesn't count, that it won't get enough votes, or enough journalists, enough members of the voting panel will decide it doesn't count, so it won't win because it's already a disadvantage to the others. So it doesn't matter. Personally, I would say count it, but if they decided it didn't count, all of a sudden I wouldn't lose sleep over it.
Yeah, I agree. Game of the Year noms went out. You can check them on the website. The big prize. It's Astro, Balatro, Metaphor, Wukong, Final Fantasy, and Airtree. If you were to put money on it now, what are you thinking? I think purely because it's such journalist bait, I think Astro's probably got it. For me, it's between Astro and Final Fantasy. But
yeah, I would say Astro wins that. It's weird. I think Balatro could be the dark horse because like lots of people played that.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know if that suffers from the same thing as Erdtree. I wonder how many people voting for it will think, well, that doesn't count, just because it gets some preconceived bias as to what it should count as a top tier game because it doesn't look like one.
People will be like, "Oh, it's just some daft poker game.
It's like, just a mobile game." It's the same reason Point Pay was ignored last year, despite being one of the best games of the year. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I would say Astro. I'm more inclined to lean towards Astro, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think especially because Astro's so digestible. Like Final Fantasy's a 90-odd hour game. Metaphor, massively long. Black Myth doesn't even deserve to be in the conversation, but alas. I think it's like 10% of the vote is public, which Black Myth will probably win. And the other 90% is like the panel, which includes us. So it's an Astro sweep. It's not like last year where I was like, I want Alan Wake to win everything, but Baldur's Gate 3 is obviously going to win everything. It feels more kind of spread. No noms whatsoever for Thank Goodness You're Here is a fucking joke, because that is legitimately one of the best games of the year, and I would say the funniest game ever made.
Yeah, agreed. I want to see how it does BAFTA wise.
Yeah,
because I get the feeling that it's a British humour thing. But yeah, it absolutely deserved at least some recognition, which is
spoilers.
really
It's going to be on VGC's fucking top 10 without a doubt.
Definitely. As well, Tetris Forever, which also got the shaft, although did it miss the deadline?
No, that was just under the wire, I think. But
people at the same time, what categories do you nominate that for other than best game? Because there's no best retro compilation category. But yeah,
we could do an entire episode about
and we will
the interest of the interesting machinations of the Game Awards. Maybe after it's all said and done, we talk about what we voted for and why, something like that. Speaking of, Yupty, what would your ideal VGC award show look like? It would be hosted by Ben Starr, as some minor award shows also are. And we would sit in the audience and throw tomatoes at him. I think that would be the one to do it.
I would say hosted by Dominic Diamond.
Mm-hmm.
Bring Dominic Diamond out of retirement. Countless outrageous jokes.
Yeah.
That only Dominic Diamond can get away with.
Like Games Media Awards style humour. Bring that back. Relive the GMAs.
Oh, mate, that's a podcast on its own. Reliving the GMAs.
Get Kez on for that.
Yeah. And yeah, just we get to pick the winners, obviously, because it's our award, so we're corrupt. Everything goes to
lots of backhanders.
Yeah, and like oddly, WWF No Mercy wins like 8 awards, even though it wasn't out this year. Stuff like that, just pure corruption.
We get like the former WWF stars that haven't signed Legends deals. We get them to host it, so it's a lot of your Scotty 2 Hotties. It's like your Stevie Richards, those kind of people.
Get Hornswoggle to give out best art direction.
Yeah, big Dylan Postal. No, a VGC award show. First of all, it'd be done in half an hour. You've got better things to do with your life than watching an awards show, and it would just be would have 10 awards. Everyone would get the same amount of time for their speeches, and that would be it. We'd be like, on you go. The bar is now open.
No skits.
No skits.
No.
Me and Chris come out and do some fucking still game style comedy between every award.
Oh, hello! Oh, no nominations for, what is it, Elden Ring? Chase yourself, you bastard.
I'll show you my Elden Ring. Yeah, a lot of getting dragged off stage by big comedy canes. Like it'd be
but
great.
We'd also be on Twitch at the same time, so we'd be actually among the Twitch commenters. Yeah. So when all the Twitch is scrolling up, people saying this isn't funny, hurry up, we don't care. We'll actually be on Twitch typing fucking shut up. Like I'd actually be in Twitch itself while I'm broadcasting. Here, next award, wait a second, and I'll get my keyboard out and just type in the chat, shut up, and then go back and so it's like multi-layered.
And then Julian Clary comes out and talks about fisting Norman Lamont. One for the kids there. Next question. V Avalahazi says, how organised is the games industry in terms of notice you get for press trips? Is it weeks/months in advance? How does cost coverage work? Any nightmare stories? Well, a nightmare story is anytime you have to go to France, but I don't know, it's typically like, if it's international, usually like a month, but I mean, the amount of times I've been like, can you go to London next week, which is much easier to sort, but it's typically stuff like that.
I mean, to be honest, the boring answer is it depends on who's organising it. As with any company, like when PR firms get involved with stuff, the quality varies wildly in terms of how efficient they are and how prepared they are. So you might get situations where you're offered something like a couple of months in advance, so you can plan properly for it. And when you get there, there's like a well organised setup where, okay, we're taking you here, then we're taking you here, then we're taking you here. Or it might just be they dump you in your hotel and say, meet us here at this time, and you've got to figure it out yourself. Sometimes it will clearly feel very last minute, either because they haven't organised it well or because somebody's dropped out and you've been brought in as, we need to make the numbers up, let's just bring this mob in. So yeah, it really varies wildly in terms of what's on and what's not. The one thing that's kind of non-negotiable is that we won't guarantee positive coverage for these things.
Oh yeah.
Which I think some people still think is how it works. It's not like I don't know if the influencer generation kind of makes that feel like it's still a thing, because I think that does happen in that world. Where if you fly us across the world, we'll say you're the greatest fucking thing that's ever existed. We still don't do that. We'll never do that, because the job is still to cover what's put in front of us.
And often influencer events are very different from press events, but they get they get conflated. Like a lot of press events are you get shoved in an office and you play a game for 3 hours and you do a quick interview and that's you. Influencer events are a lot more kind of like, this is something for us to film, for us to do like an exciting activity or something. Then we'll maybe play the game for 10 minutes.
On very rare occasions, you'll be witness to that. Like my previous story about Topspin, going to France again to play Topspin, and they actually had 2 different sessions. So when our session finished, all the press left. I had to wait a few hours to wait for my bus back to the airport. From a taxi to the airport, and after they've got rid of all us, they brought all the influencers in for a separate session. So at that point, they're being given all the freebies and being shown all the fancier stuff. But whatever, that's the gig. Like, if they want, they do it their way, we do it our way. Just as long as people realise that it's not like for like. That we handle things differently. So I think the instinct is to think, oh, they're getting flown across the world for this thing, therefore they're going to give it positive coverage, but that's not a guarantee by any stretch of the imagination. As I always say, when I went to New York to visit Marvel's headquarters back in the day for Iron Man on the Wii, and then returned home, the review code turned up and we gave it 12%. Unofficial Nintendo magazine. So
12 out of 15, pretty good.
Out of just 100.
Okay.
Just 12 out of 100. So yeah, it was garbage.
Very occasionally you'll be like, the press will be part of the influencer style stuff. Like there's been like 2 Star Wars game trips to Disney in like sequential years, and it's funny to see the press being like, can I have fun here? Do I have to be all Johnny serious while all the influencers are like, yeah, man, I'm here at fucking Olga's Cantina, man. And ultimately, like, the way I feel about it is, I mean, I gave fucking Star Wars Outlaws 3 stars, so I personally have no conflict within myself that I feel like I'm compromised in any way, so that's ultimately all I care about. But also, this is a extremely privileged position. You might as well enjoy the things you're offered, as long as you can keep it square in yourself. Like, then what's the fucking problem?
That's the thing. There's it's a difficult conversation to have in a light-hearted podcast. But yeah, there's it's not maybe it is in other countries, but in the UK it's not a very high-paying job. So when you get perks, well, what can I say? These bubbly old Atari jumpers don't pay for themselves. 20 quid it was. They like 10 years ago.
Invoice it.
I'll invoice it anyway. But it's just there's I can't remember what I was saying. Something about it's not a massively high paying job, at least in the UK. So when you get offered perks, you take them. The difference is where the job aspect of it comes into play is being professional enough to separate that from the actual coverage. So I've just been sent the new Spectrum and the new Atari 7800 Plus, and they're in fancy boxes that only the press get. If those are shite, the reviews will say those are shite. Like,
unboxing, I appreciate the box. Patreon.com/videogameschronicle.
Yeah. By the time you read this, if not within a couple of hours, by the time you hear this, if not within a couple of hours, the Spectrum one will be up. The professionalism aspect is being able to separate the perks from the coverage. You can go, thank you very much. I appreciate that. That is very nice of you to send me that. Now, time to put the journalism hat on and actually do the job. And the best journalists are the ones who can do that, who can separate the PR from the actual coverage.
Yeah.
And the best PRs are the ones that appreciate that and realise that if you can be good pals with them, like I'm with a lot of PRs, but they'll also appreciate that when it's time for you to do your job, they've done all they can do, and it's not their job then to influence you into giving a positive score or anything.
And
so
plus,
the best relation.
They'll have good I've had like banner with PRs after I've put up shit reviews, just been like, X, Y, and Z, and they don't think about it. Like, it just the worst. Like, if a PR holds a grudge because of a bad review, that is a bad PR in my opinion.
Yeah.
Alas, right. Last question, as I'm starting to really fade here.
Jordan's like dying on camera. Like,
yeah,
literally.
I'm having a bad one, but we're nearly there. Let me see. Okay, interesting from what we were talking about earlier. Chillfast 001. With the fallout, no pun intended, of the Stalker 2 reviewers, I find it hard to believe the studio didn't know this was coming, as we spoke about earlier. And while seemingly not as bad, this is the second studio under Xbox's custody to launch a, in quotes, broken mess or a game. Do you think there's more publishers should be doing to ensure they're not launching broken games? Nintendo and Sony don't seem to have this problem. I don't know. It's been a bad week for games in the Xbox family, but I don't typically think Xbox have a massive reputation of putting out broken stuff. I think Nintendo has a much worse reputation for putting out games that have like fucking 2 frames a second.
They're having a really bad week. They're being really unfortunate that everything bad that could happen has all happened in the space of 1 week.
Avowed's pretty good, but I played 2 hours of Avowed. That's pretty good.
Which is good to hear, but again, like you said in the preview, it's releasing in amongst everything else, so that it might get forgotten. But yeah, I would say by and large, 99 or 95% of Xbox stuff launches without issue, much like 95% of PlayStation stuff and 95% of Nintendo stuff. Nobody's immune from this. Gran Turismo had many issues at launch, maybe not performance issues, but issues with the game's structure that were then amended in later patches. It doesn't always, issues at launch don't always mean is the thing broken, does the thing actually run. It can also just be the way the game is put together and the way the way it's structured. Is it user friendly? Is it like the flight sim situation, for example? By the end of the weekend, flight sim will work fine, as in you'll be able to put in and get flights going. That UI is still dog shit for a controller. That has to be fixed. So there are plenty of games in the past that launched working but weren't fun for various reasons. So you could kind of count that as well. So nobody's immune from it. It's just this was really bad timing for Microsoft that they've all kind of come at the same time this year.
Yeah. Sony's like first party stuff seems to get out quite, like, I can't remember the last time one of their things has been really fucked, and they also give quite a lot of time for reviews, but that's just kind of the way they're in a good run. It'll happen to them. It happens to everyone. Like, I don't think anyone's immune, as you say. We'll do the last question since it's here and since I can just about stomach it. Mr. Dave, as journals, you guys are privy to information that is in public. Do you ever revisit things you've been told, for example? If Nintendo told you under NDA or similar that the Switch 2 wouldn't be out until September 2025, which is true, by the way, Chris String told me, would you bring something like that up after the fact? Hope this makes sense. I think he's saying, what stuff did you know about early? I mean,
I had a period when before I was at VGC.
Oh well, of course, yeah,
and had less responsibility. I had a good maybe 10 show run of leaking something in every Nintendo Direct.
That's how I first came across you, funnily enough.
By putting tweets, spelling out tweets with the initials of each tweet, spelling out what the game was going to be. And then after the Nintendo Direct, I would go back and screenshot my tweets and say, told you. And everyone would be raging at it and make it more complicated every time. So, and nobody ever, luckily nobody found, because if somebody figured one out, I'd be fucked. But then also when I joined VGC, it's not worth taking that risk. I was freelance at that point and could get away with it. But yeah, I mean, the nature of the gig is you get told loads of stuff.
Sometimes it's more significant than others. We knew the entire contents of one of the summer presentations to the point that, like, 5 days before, to the point where after 2 trailers had went up, I was like, oh no, this is correct. Like, we can just go with this. But it's such a, first of all, there's a discussion to be had, perhaps not today, about when it's worth even fucking saying stuff that's happening. Secondly, that it would be such a big swing, and it's so easy to get fucked on stuff like that it's you might as well just shut up. I mean,
it's also things change all the time as well. It's like the problem is when you say something that becomes gospel forever, and if it ends up not happening, you look like a liar. I was told when Stadia was coming out, God rest it. I was told of at least 3 or 4 big exclusive games that were coming out on Stadia that never came out.
Yeah.
And if I had mentioned those games publicly, I would have looked like a fucking idiot because they never came out, and people would go, "Oh, why were you bigging up Stadia by making up games that were coming?" No, they were coming. It just didn't happen. So yeah, it's there are people who make a career out of it, who take regular chances and leak the stuff they've been told. But there eventually comes a point where a few of those don't come true, and then your reputation gets a kicking for it. It's just not worth it. It helps us from a job perspective because we can plan ahead and say, okay, well, we'll give so much coverage to this because we know this is coming. So for our job, it's useful, but it's also just not fun.
Yeah.
I there's nothing better for me than people reacting en masse to something that's announced during a ceremony or some sort of show where everyone goes, "Ah!" at the same time. And we might not get that as much, but I prefer that than one website saying this is coming, and then other websites going, "Yeah, we heard that too," and then everyone going, "Oh, good." It's
fuckers on Twitter with like 200 followers being like, "Yeah, I'm also hearing this." Go fuck yourself. Go fuck
only
yourself,
just
Jeff Grubb.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, it's looking good. He's lost a lot of weight recently. Very thin in the face, gaunt looking, muscly.
Jeff Gaunt.
Okay, I'm going to go and take 50 Beechams. I'm going to take a massive overdose of barbiturates. This weekend...
Well, no autopsy required if he ends up pegging it. We found out what happened.
Yeah, true. This weekend, if it turns up, I'll open that grey PlayStation on Patreon. I bet it's going to be a grey PlayStation. That's my prediction. I'm being flippant. It comes with the Wii controller ties. That'll be interesting to look at least. What else?
Is that one that comes with an art card? Oh no, it's just the Pro in it that comes.
Oh no, I don't get one of the 30 posters. When my 30 Pros turn up, I'll lay them all in. Presuming I don't get any doublers.
No, you won't.
Part of that, you've got a couple of. When can you do these consoles? One of them today and one of them next.
One of them luckily turned up 12 minutes after the embargo lifted. Which is brilliant. Considering it's a retro console, that makes sense that everything's set in the past.
Yeah.
So I can talk. I can if you just if you kill some time, just so we have the Spectrum, which I'll be reviewing fairly soon. It comes with lovely rubber keys like the original Spectrum did. So that'll be the first review. That'll be going up on probably Monday, if not Tuesday. Mm-hmm. And then following that is the Atari 7800 Plus, which is similar to the one they brought out last year or maybe the year before, and it plays actual Atari games. So it's a really niche one that's not going to be for everyone, but they'll both be going up next week at some point. Reviews of both.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, until then, check out patreon.com/videogameschronicle for more podcast videos, etc. Till next time, say goodbye, Chris.
Goodbye, Chris.
See you later.